हरि ओम गुरुजी।
ॐ विश्वन्दर्पण दृश्यमान नगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्मोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तन्तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठम् अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यैः सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे। नमः श्री परमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रियब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ We will chant the Gita Dhyana Shlokas also. ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः। प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्ससुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला। अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः। पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं। लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः I welcome you all to the 5th class of our Bhagavad Gita study. In the last class, we looked at a preview of what is going to come in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, titled Arjuna Viṣāda Yogaḥ. And we looked at this preview because it's easy to get lost in the specifics of the verses and miss the bigger picture, miss the higher level picture. And therefore, in order to get the higher level picture, we saw the preview first, so that we can keep it in mind when we go through the specific verses. So we saw that the armies of the Kauravas and the Pandavas have assembled for the war. And the Pandavas are on the side of Dharma. The Kauravas have always indulged in adharma. Therefore, the Pandavas, having tried all the possible peaceful options, tried to avoid the war to the best of their ability, but they could not. And therefore, for the sake of upholding dharma, this war has become a necessity. And as we saw that when the two armies are assembled, Arjuna requests Sri Krishna to position his chariot so that he can get a view of the other side. And when Arjuna looks at the army on the other side, he sees his own people there, Bhishma, Drona, and all of the other relatives. They are on the other side. And therefore, Arjuna's mind gets into a conflict situation. So far, he had been very clear that this war is required for dharma, but now his mind is conflicted. He experiences sorrow and confusion that we call Shlokaha and Mohaha. And he starts to feel that the entire war, which was meant for upholding dharma, that entire war is adharma. And he even drops his bow and arrows and he thinks about taking to sannyasa. But there is something within him that holds him back from doing that also. Because he feels somewhere that even that option he cannot be at peace with. And therefore, he doesn't know what to do. Either of those choices, neither of those choices are acceptable to him. And therefore, he feels very helpless and surrenders to Krishna, saying that I don't know what to do. And he is in all this grief and confusion. And at that point, he asks Sri Krishna to show him the way, to teach him. So this is what unfolds in the first chapter and the first 10 verses of the second chapter. So the message that we have to extract from this first introductory portion of the Bhagavad Gita is, there are 2 points here. One is that the entire second chapter onwards, the entire portion is a remedy for the disease of samsara. So since the entire Gita Shastram is presenting a remedy for the disease of samsara, until we appreciate the problem of samsara ourselves, we will not be able to appreciate the remedy. And therefore, in the first chapter, Bhagavad Gita presents the disease of samsara in terms of its symptoms. And then in the second chapter, from the 11th verse onwards, Sri Krishna will provide the remedy for this disease. So this is the first point, that the first chapter presents the disease of samsara in terms of its symptoms. And the second point is that it talks about the coming together of the guru and the Śiṣya. And in the process, it talks about, it implies, it gives us by implication what the qualifications of the Śiṣya are, what the qualifications of the guru are. We'll see some of that also. These are the 2 points we have to take away from the introductory portion of the Bhagavad Gita, which comprises of the first chapter, 47 verses, and the first 10 verses of the second chapter. Then, as a part of the higher level picture, we also got a little bit into what this disease of samsara is, what its root cause is, and how it develops into the disease. Like we said, for any disease, a person who is suffering from any disease, that person just knows the symptoms. He knows the disease in terms of the symptoms. He does not know what the root cause of these symptoms are or what the remedy is. And therefore, he might try some self-medication or some superficial symptomatic cures, but none of them are successful in eliminating the disease because he has not addressed the root cause of the disease. So until the root cause is addressed, the disease keeps reappearing in various forms in terms of repeatedly having the same symptoms or slightly varying symptoms. So it is important to understand and address the root cause. So now we are talking about the disease of samsara. And the first chapter presents it in terms of the symptoms. But from the 11th verse of the second chapter, Sri Krishna is going to start talking about the root cause and its remedy. What is the root cause of this disease of samsara? And how does this root cause manifest as the symptoms of the disease of samsara? That's the question, which we saw in the last class. That the root cause of this disease of samsara, which manifests in the form of the symptoms of sorrow and confusion, like Arjuna experienced, the root cause of it is avidya or self-ignorance. That I don't know that I am already full, limitless, and complete, being one with Ishvara. So there is self-ignorance. I don't know who I am, basically. And when I don't know who I am, and that is followed by a mistake about who I am, just as when I don't know a rope as a rope, it's invariably mistaken for a snake. So then I make a mistake about myself. That is called adhyasa or superimposition. And what is this mistake that I make about myself? I say that I am this body and mind. This is what we call ahankara. And through this body and mind, I am connected to some people and some objects, the family, possessions, and profession, etc. So that is the second superimposition. So I am this body mind, and through this body mind, I am connected to my family, possessions, my profession. This is called māmakāḥ. So the second, the effect of the root cause, which is avidya or self-ignorance, is this ahankara and māmakāḥ. And invariably, it results in apurnatvam. The conclusion that I am apurnaha, I am a deficient, limited, wanting being, because I am limited in every sense, in terms of the body and mind, or family, possessions, profession, whatever it might be. So ahankara, mamakara, apurnatvam is the first symptom of this disease, whose root cause is avidya. Then what is the second symptom that follows from the ahankara, mamakara, apurnatvam? Is that I understand myself as being incomplete, deficient, wanting, inadequate, and therefore I have to lean upon the world for my completeness. In order to become full, complete, limitless. Of course, none of that can make me full, complete, limitless, but then I begin to depend upon the world because I see a deficiency in myself. I cannot be happy, complete, fulfilled with myself, and therefore I'm critically dependent upon people, objects, and situations in the world. The root cause is avidya. The first development is ahankara, mamakara, and apurnatvam. And the second development following this is ragaha. Ragaha meaning that I am clinging on to things, people, objects, situations, relationships in the world for my emotional completeness. And this is ragaha, which is the second effect of the root cause. And we call this an impurity. This is an impurity because I am depending on something that is unpredictable, uncontrollable, unsustainable. It is like walking on crutches, walking with crutches, when the crutches themselves have a tendency to break. If the crutches break, then I fall. Similarly, I am dependent on the crutches of people, objects, situations, relationships in the world. And the world is unpredictable, uncontrollable, unsustainable. Therefore, even any loss, any change in this situation, coming and going of people, objects, situations, relationships, that's like the crutches breaking. That causes an emotional fall. And that is what we call shokaha and mohaha. That is where this sorrow and confusion comes from. The sorrow is accompanied by worry, anxiety, fear, stress, because something may happen to the people, object, situation. So it is not just an actual loss, but even an imagined loss of the things that I'm clinging to can result in worry, fear, anxiety, stress. And this culminates in sorrow on the imagined or actual loss of whatever I'm leaning on. So this is the shokaha. And then shokaha is accompanied by mohaha also. Mohaha means confusion. Confusion with regards to what is right and wrong. That when I'm dependent, leaning emotionally on people, objects, and situations of the world, then my idea of what is right and wrong becomes colored. I am no longer objective in situations. So this is the mohaha. Dharma, adharma, avivekaha is mohaha. And in this environment, when there is dharma, adharma, avivekaha, and shokaha, so mohaha may be accompanied by shokaha, or mohaha may be there without shokaha also. But in either case, the actions that arise out of such an environment where there is mohaha or mohaha accompanied by shokaha, those actions don't conform to dharma. Because of this confusion with regards to right and wrong. So one will lean towards doing what is convenient than doing what is right. And therefore, there is swadharma parityagaha and paradharma anushthana, meaning giving up of what one is supposed to do and doing something else that one is not supposed to do. Somebody else is supposed to do, perhaps. Like Arjuna dropped his bow and arrow. Swadharma, that represents Swadharma Parityagaha. And he wanted to lead a monk's life. He wanted to take to sannyasa. And that becomes Paradharma Anushtanam. Or even if one continues with Swadharma, let us say that one understands the value of Swadharma, and in such an environment, even if one continues one's Swadharma, what is the motivation behind such Swadharma? If it arises out of mohaha, Swadharma that arises out of this mohaha, and all of this ahankara, mamakara, raga, shoka, moha, any Swadharma that arises out of this, the motive behind it is really for the sake of this ahankara, mamakara, for the sake of this body, mind, family, possessions, and profession. And therefore, any of these, so it becomes sakama karma. Karma done for the sake of artha and kama. So it becomes a pursuit of dharma for the sake of artha and kama, which is sakama karma. And therefore, it perpetuates, reinforces and perpetuates ahankara, mamakara, raga, shoka and moha. It perpetuates all of this. It leaves the root cause unaddressed. The root cause of avidya is unaddressed, and it leads to a perpetuation of ahankara, mamakara, raga, shoka, and moha. And therefore, the impurities of the mind that we talked about, like this raga, ahankara, mamakara, raga, all of these actually build up. One may stagnate at that level, or one may even increase the impurities. And therefore, one is creating a distance from one's own Purnatvam, because it becomes harder to awaken this person to the fact that you are already limitless, full, and complete. It results in a perpetuation of this limited individual. It results in a perpetuation of this disease of samsara, whose symptoms are ahankara, mamakara, raga, shoka, moha. And therefore there is no end to confusion, no end to suffering. This is the idea. Therefore, the disease of samsara we understand in terms of the symptoms. In the first chapter, we understand that there is raga, there is shoka, there is moha, there is swadharma parityaga, there is paradharma anushtana. All of these are symptoms. The root cause of it is avidya, which Bhagavan Krishna will start presenting from the 11th verse of the second chapter. This is the first takeaway from the introductory portion. And when we see Arjuna's problem, we should generalize it, saying that the problem is not just Arjuna's problem. In fact, every human being is suffering from all of these symptoms. So the problem, the disease of samsara is not just Arjuna's disease, it is every human being's disease that is being addressed here. And therefore from Arjuna one has to come, from Arjuna's problem one has to come to the universal problem. I have to understand that Arjuna's problem is also my problem. Even though my symptoms are different in day-to-day life, the general problem is the same, the root cause is the same, and therefore, whatever remedy Sri Krishna is going to offer is a remedy meant for me also. This is an important takeaway. And then, if you have got this message, then it is like chewing the sugar cane. When you chew the sugar cane, you take in the juice and you throw away the husk. So similarly, this is the message that we have to extract from the introductory portion of the first chapter and the second chapter. The introductory portion, This is the message we have to extract. And once we have extracted that, then we can set aside the specifics of the story. Specifics of the story are not as relevant for a student of Vedanta. Then the second purpose of the introductory portion is the introduction of the Guru and Śiṣya. Guru and Śiṣya come together. And why are they coming together? Why is the introduction of the Guru and Śiṣya important? Because in all of our Shastras, in all the Upanishads, the teaching is always in the form of a dialogue where a Śiṣya approaches a Guru. And there is a question and answer type of framework in which the student asks questions and the Guru gives answers to the questions. So this indicates the importance of a dialogue. It indicates the importance of a Guru. Because without a Guru, trying to treat the disease of samsara will be trying to self-medicate any other disease. One may either just try superficial cures or try something that may actually make the disease even worse. And therefore, going to an expert who understands the disease, who can identify the root cause and address the root cause is important. And that is why even in spiritual matters, a guru who understands these things deeply, the dialogue with the guru is important. And that is what is highlighted in the introductory portion, the coming together of the student and the teacher. And the second thing that we have to take away is that it highlights the qualifications of the student and the teacher also. Because if both the student and the teacher are qualified, then the dialogue can result in the disease being eliminated. If one of them is unqualified, or neither of them, if one of them is not qualified, or both of them are not qualified, then the disease will just continue. So then, what are the qualifications for the student? The qualifications for the student that we will see in the first chapter is that one has to understand the disease in terms of the symptoms, that the symptoms are causing me distress. I'm distressed because of these symptoms. And I want to cure this disease fundamentally, not symptomatically. That is the qualification of the student. And one has to understand one's own helplessness in doing this. And therefore the need to approach somebody who knows the solution. This should be the qualification of the student. Now the qualification of the teacher, qualification of the guru, is that the guru himself must be free of this disease. And the second point is that the guru must understand the root cause and the remedy very well, so that the communication can be clear. The communication can be clear and the dialogue can be effective. So Arjuna finds such a teacher in Sri Krishna. And as we said, whatever solution Sri Krishna provides is not tailor-made for Arjuna. So through him, Sri Krishna is teaching the entire humanity. And that is why there is a very key statement, a key line in Bhagavad Gita, Shankaracharya, in his Bhashya. He writes one line that is very pertinent in this context. So he says, Sarvalokan anugrahartham Arjunam nimitti kritya aha Bhagavan Vasudevaha. So Sarvalokan anugrahartham, in order to bless the entire humanity, Sarvalokan anugrahartham Arjunam nimitti kritya, meaning that Arjuna is just an instrument in this whole thing. He brings out the teaching from Sri Krishna. So Bhagavan Krishna keeps Arjuna there as somebody who is incidental in bringing this out, bringing the teaching out. So Arjunam nimitti kritya, through Arjuna, Bhagavan is teaching the entire world. Aha Bhagavan Sri Vasudevaha. So with this, we entered into the title of the first chapter, Arjuna Viṣāda Yogaḥ. So we said Arjuna Viṣāda refers to Arjuna's sorrow or Arjuna's grief. Now, Arjuna Viṣāda Yogaḥ is the title of the first chapter. So we have heard of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga, as we said, yoga refers to means of union with Bhagavan. Means of union with Bhagavan is what we said is yoga. So Karma Yoga is means of union through karma. Upasana Yoga is means of this union through upasana. Jnana Yoga is means of this union through jnana. So what does Arjuna Viṣāda Yogaḥ mean? Does it mean means of this union with Bhagavan through Arjuna's sorrow? Does it mean that? Or means of union through sorrow? So we say that's not the meaning here. We should not take these chapter titles like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Upasana Yoga, etc. These chapter titles are not meant to be that. So yoga here, the word yoga has got a slightly different meaning. It refers to connection or topic. So Arjuna Viṣāda Yogaḥ means the topic of Arjuna's sorrow. So this is the meaning of the title. And when we say Shokaha, Viṣādaha is Shokaha, we can also take it to be along with Ragaha, Mohaha, etc. So it is really the topic of Arjuna's Ragaha, Shokaha, Mohaha. Or in short, we can say the topic of Arjuna's Samsara. So it can also be called Arjuna Samsara Yoga. So with this, we will enter into the first verse of the first chapter. Dhrtarashtra uvāca.
Dhrtarashtra uvāca.
Dharmakṣetre kurukṣetre.
Dharmakṣetre kurukṣetre.
Samavetā yuyutsavaḥ.
Samavetā yuyutsavaḥ.
Māmakāḥ pāṇḍavāścaiva.
Māmakāḥ pāṇḍavāścaiva.
Kimakurvata Sanjaya.
Kimakurvata Sanjaya.
So the first verse starts with Dhrtarashtra uvāca. Dhrtarashtra uvāca, meaning Dhrtarashtra said. The Dhrtarashtra, as we know, is the blind king, the father of all the 100 Kauravas. The first scene of the Bhagavad Gita is happening in the palace in Hastinapura, where Dhrtarashtra is seated and he asks a question. Dhrtarashtra uvāca, meaning Dhrtarashtra said. And whatever he says contains a question. We will see that. The question is, who is he addressing? Who is Dhrtarashtra talking to? So we look at the last word of the first verse, kimakurvata Sanjaya. He is addressing Sanjaya. So who is Sanjaya? Sanjaya is the narrator of the Bhagavad Gita. He is the narrator. And he is a constant companion of Dhrtarashtra. He is one of his ministers and a constant trusted minister and a trusted companion who is always there with Dhrtarashtra. So before the war starts, Vyasacharya visited Dhritarashtra, and he tried to tell him not to get into this war. A Mahatma like Vyasa, he could foretell what is going to happen in the future. Therefore, he told Dhritarashtra that you work with Duryodhana, somehow convince Duryodhana to not enter into this war. But then Dhritarashtra was not convinced because of his blind love for his son. And therefore Dhritarashtra did not want to do that. And then Vyasacharya offered Dhritarashtra this Divya Drishti or Dīgha Darshanam, power of Dīgha Darshanam, through which Dhritarashtra could see what is going on in the battlefield. But then Dhritarashtra said, no, I don't want that. I don't want this seeing of whatever is happening in the battlefield. No, I can't stand seeing my own people get destroyed. And therefore he says, you give this power to Sanjaya, who is my minister, who is my companion. You give this power to Sanjaya. Therefore Vyasa conferred this power of Divya Drishti or Dīgha Darshanam to Sanjaya, so that he could be anywhere and he could see whatever is happening in the battlefield, in every corner of the battlefield. Like we see these cricket matches, right? So they have cameras positioned in every angle, and then you get a live telecast of whatever is happening in the cricket match, and you can even, there was some technology where you could see live telecast from different angles. In every corner of the field you can see what is going on at the same time. So something like that, Sanjaya got this power. And not only seeing, he could also hear whatever is happening. And he could even see, hear whatever, he could even tell what the other people are thinking. He had a complete telecast of whatever was going on. So Sanjaya had this power, and he faithfully reported everything to Dhritarashtra, and that is how we have the Bhagavad Gita, because he is the narrator. So here Dhritarashtra is asking, Kim akurvata. You see the last quarter of the first verse, it says, Kim akurvata Sanjaya. Kimakurvata Sanjaya. Kim akurvata, meaning what did they do? Kim akurvata, what did they do? So who is he talking about? What did they do means who is they that he is talking about? So he says in the first word of the third quarter, we see māmakāḥ pāṇḍavāścaiva ca eva. So he says māmakāḥ kim akurvata, meaning what did my people do? Māmakāḥ. And who else? Pāṇḍavāścaiva ca eva, meaning my people and the Pandavas, what did they do? He is asking. From this itself, we can see the attitude of Dhrtarashtra, where he is talking about the Kauravas as being his people, whereas the Pandavas, who are really his own brothers' children, he doesn't see them as his people. Māmakāḥ pāṇḍavāścaiva ca eva kim akurvata he Sanjaya, he is asking. So then a question arises as to why is he asking this in the past tense? Why is he asking what did they do? Why not the present tense? For example, he could have asked what are they doing? Kim kurvantah santi, he could have asked. Māmakāḥ pāṇḍavāścaiva ca eva kim kurvantah santi, meaning what are they doing? He could have asked. But then he did not ask this. Why is he asking it in the past tense? So there is an important fact in the story here, that that a lot of us may not be aware of. Because we think that when this conversation is happening, the war is about to start. We think that the war has not yet started and Sanjaya is doing a direct relay of whatever he is seeing. But interestingly, that is not the case here. Because if that was the case, he should have asked, what are they doing? So, like for example, if we are seeing a live telecast, we ask, who is batting right now? That is the question we ask, not who did the batting. So here he is asking, what did they do? And the reason is that Sanjaya, so this is not happening before the war started. In fact, this is on the 10th day of the battle. Sanjaya has returned from the battlefield on the 10th day of the battle after Bhishmacharya has fallen. And he rushes to report this to Dhritarashtra on the 10th day and conveys the news that Bhishma has fallen. So when Dhritarashtra hears this, he's very sad and he laments about this. And then he asks the question, tell me everything that happened from the first day. Kim akurvata māmakāḥ pāṇḍavāścaiva kim akurvata he Sanjaya. So then he's asking, what did my people and the Pandavas do? Now he's using some adjectives for his people, māmakāḥ and Pandavaha. He's saying, dharmakṣetre, kurukṣetre, samavetā yuyutsavaḥ. Samavetā yuyutsavaḥ. Samavetā means those who have assembled. Samavetā, those who have assembled, and yuyutsavaḥ, yodhum icchavah, meaning those who are desirous of fighting. Those who are desirous of fighting and have assembled such people who are my people and the Pandavas, what did they do? That is his question. And where? Where have they assembled? He says, kurukṣetre. Kurukṣetre. So, kshetra means a sacred place, a place of pilgrimage. So, kurukṣetra is the place where King Kuru, who is the founder of the Kuru dynasty, from whom all the Kauravas have come. In fact, all the descendants of Kuru are the Kauravas. So it's Kauravas doesn't just mean the 100 brothers. In fact, even Dhrtarashtra is technically a Kaurava because he's a descendant of Kuru. Even Pandu is a Kaurava because he's a descendant of Kuru. So the root node of this whole tree, this entire family is Kuru. And King Kuru did tapas here, and therefore it is called kurukṣetra. And what kind of kurukṣetra is it? He says, dharmakṣetre kurukṣetre. Dharmakṣetre kurukṣetre. So in this kurukṣetra, and we can take it as, which itself is a dharmakṣetra. The kurukṣetra itself is dharmakṣetra, or the kurukṣetra is in a dharmakṣetra, which is this Bharata Desha. The entire Bharata Desha is a dharmakṣetra. And in Bharata Desha, there is kurukṣetra. So we can take it as either way. What did my people and the Pandavas do? That is his question. So it is interesting that the first word of the Bhagavad Gita we see is dharmakṣetre. So the first word is dharma. Therefore, in order to understand what we mean by dharma, we have been using the word dharma, but we have to understand what the word dharma really means, because this background will be useful for the study of the entire Bhagavad Gita. And we had looked into this in the fundamentals of Vedanta class also. And we will briefly review that part that we had seen earlier. We said that the word dharma can have three possible meanings. The first meaning of the word dharma is chodana lakshanaha arthaha dharmaha, meaning the lifestyle or the way of life that is based on the vidhi and nishedha of the Vedas, meaning a lifestyle or a way of life that is based upon the commandments, the do's and don'ts that are mandated by the Veda. Just like a constitution has got duties for the various citizens, similarly the Veda prescribes certain duties, values and attitudes for the followers of the Veda. Therefore, the Veda prescribes duties, values and attitudes. What are these duties? The duties comprise of yajnaha, dhanam and tapaha. Yajnaha refers to reverential offerings. Reverential offerings made to Bhagavan, Deva Yajnaha. Reverential offerings to one's own ancestors, Pitri Yajnaha. Reverential offerings to rishis, which is Brahma Yajnaha. And offerings to one's own fellow beings, Manushya Yajnaha. And offerings to all the beings around me, Bhuta Yajnaha. This is Yajnaha, duties in the form of Yajnaha. And Dhanam, Dhanam refers to all kinds of giving. And Tapaha, Tapaha refers to disciplines and austerities meant for self-purification. Duties in the form of Yajnaha, Dhanam and Tapaha. And then values. Veda prescribes lots of values. And many of these, as we have seen, they are based on common sense values. The Veda is reiterating a lot of the common sense values. Because I know that I don't want to be hurt, I don't want to be lied to, I don't want to be cheated. And therefore I can understand, this is just common sense. One doesn't even need to be taught that everybody expects the same. Every human being, in fact, every living being, no living being wants to be hurt. And no human being wants to be lied to, no human being wants to be cheated. And therefore, once I understand this commonsensically, I understand that this is a universal value. And therefore, ahimsa becomes a universal value. I don't want to be hurt, therefore nobody else wants to be hurt. I understand this. And therefore, ahimsa becomes a universal value. I don't want to be lied to, nobody wants to be lied to. Therefore, satyam becomes a universal value. I don't want to be stolen from, nobody wants to be stolen from. Therefore, asteya becomes a universal value. And so on, there are several values, and Bhagavad Gita will also talk about a lot of these values. Amanitvam madam bhitvam ahimsa akshantir arjavam acharyopasanam shaucham. So there's a big list of values that Bhagavad Gita itself provides. And all of these values, they are also coming from the Vedas. Therefore, duties, values, and attitudes like Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. So treating one's own parents, treating one's Acharya, treating one's Atithi, guest, like a Deva, like God. Those are the attitudes. Therefore, this is the Chodana Lakshanaha Arthaha Dharmaha in terms of duties, values, and attitudes. All these can be called Dharmaha because these are coming from the do's and don'ts of the Vedas. Then, if you look at it, there is Samanya Dharmaha. How do I find what is right action and what is wrong action? What is my duty, what is not my duty? So there is Samanya Dharmaha, meaning that there are these universal duties, values, and attitudes that apply to everybody, irrespective of time, place, or person. So that is called Samanya Dharma. So Ahimsa, Satyam, Asteya, all of these are Samanya Dharma. They apply to every person at every place, time. This is the general rule. And now there can be exceptions to the general rule, which based on a particular person, a certain time or a certain place, exceptions may be allowed. Like we said, ahimsa is a general rule. But then when it comes to a soldier who's defending the country, then the ahimsa general rule does not apply to him. Therefore, he becomes an exception. His duty becomes an exceptional duty where he can undertake himsa. Or similarly, a doctor who is doing a surgery, for him, generally using a knife to hurt another person is prohibited. That's the general rule. But in case of a doctor who is doing a surgery, then that is allowed. Using the knife to inflict a wound on the other person. A surgery is really a wound, but behind the wound, the intent is to remove a tumor. And therefore, there is an exception to the general rule. So this is called Vishesha Dharma. So there is Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma. And each of us, we have to look at the Samanya Dharma. We have to be aware of the Vishesha Dharma. And then, based on this, one sees what the right action in any given situation is, and that right action becomes the duty for that person at a particular time and a particular place. Now, when this right action is done, when the right action is done, then one finds oneself to be free of all conflict, guilt. There is no conflict and no guilt, and the right action also results in a visible effect, which is harmony. If a wrong action is done, then there is conflict, there is guilt. So there's disharmony within the individual as well as disharmony outside. And therefore, the second meaning of dharma. So we've looked at the first meaning of dharma, chodana, lakshana, artha, dharma, which are the duties, values, and attitudes prescribed by the Veda. Now, if the duties, values, and attitudes are carried out, then there is harmony within the individual and there is harmony outside. This harmony, this all-encompassing harmony that results from the lifestyle that is prescribed by the Veda is also called dharma. Dharanat dharma. So just like when a body is in harmony, meaning in good health, then that health or harmony of the body sustains the body. Harmony always sustains. Therefore, that which sustains is called dharma, or in other words, the harmony that sustains is called dharma. Therefore, there is harmony at the level of the individual, at the level of the family, at the level of the society, at the level of the environment. There's all-encompassing harmony. That is a result of the lifestyle prescribed by the Veda. The lifestyle is also called dharma, and the all-encompassing harmony that results from such a lifestyle is also called dharma. And such a harmony sustains the individual, sustains the family, sustains the society, and sustains the entire universe. That is why it is called dharma. So this is the second meaning of the word dharma. And then there is the third meaning of the word dharma also, because this harmony is the visible effect that is called dharma. But then what the Veda says is that when one engages in right action, then there is an unseen, invisible effect of performing right actions as well as wrong actions. When one engages in right action, then there is an unseen effect called punya. And when one engages in wrong action, there's an unseen effect called papa. The idea is that the right action, when one engages in right action, then the right action, the Veda says, will result in sukham in the future. And when one engages in wrong action, that wrong action, there are visible effects of disharmony even in the present moment, but it will also result in some dukkham in the future. So the question is that the action can result in sukham or dukkham in the future, but the action is gone. Once the action is done, the action is finished. So how can a finished action be a cause of something that happens in the future? For example, let's say you want to burn something and you start a fire. And now that you started the fire and now you extinguish the fire. Now can the extinguished fire burn something? It cannot. If fire has to be a cause of burning, then that fire has to be alive at the time it burns. The fire has to be there. But then the action is gone. When the action is gone, how can the gone action, which is already finished, be the cause of sukham or dukkham in the future? What the Veda says is that even though the action is gone, it leaves this unseen, persistent punya or papa around. And the punya or papa that are unseen, adrishtam, they are called adrishtam, they are the ones that produce the sukham or dukkham in the future. And therefore, right action results in this adrishtam called punyam that produces sukham in the future, and wrong action results in this adrishtam, an unseen effect called papam that produces dukkham in the future. So all cultures have this word, use this word luck. For example, even we may say that I had bad luck today, because of that I missed the bus. Or somebody who writes an exam, he may say that I guessed a lot of questions in the exam, I guessed a lot of the answers, but still I got good marks because my guesses were turned out to be right because of some good luck. So sometimes one attributes this sukham and dukkham to good luck or bad luck. But what the Veda says is that there is, and luck generally people say is something random. But the Veda says there's really nothing random that is going on. Every effect has a cause. And therefore, if there is sukham or dukkham, that sukham or dukkham also has a cause that can be traced to this punyam and papam. And that can be traced to some, that cannot be traced by us to some past action, which is the right action or wrong action. But Veda says this connection is definitely there. So this is the third meaning of the word dharma that refers to punya and papa. And what the Veda also says is that this everything, arthaha and kamaha, are left behind when an individual passes away. As we saw, arthaha grihe nivartante shmashane mitra pāṇḍavāścaiva sukritam dushkritam chaiva gachantam anugacchati. So this arthaha grihe nivartante, all the arthaha, one's wealth, etc. is left behind. All the pleasures, arthaha, we can include kamaha also. All these, all of these things that one has accumulated in terms of arthaha and kamaha, they are all left behind when an individual dies. And even the relatives, smashane mitra pāṇḍavāścaiva, friends and relatives also come only up to the crematorium. Then what accompanies this person after death is one's dharma, sukritam, dushkritam chaiva, whatever good acts and wrong acts, right acts and wrong acts this person has done in terms of the punya and papa, they accompany this person in the future. And therefore the Veda also says this punya and papa is what determines the next life that one has, and what type of situations one gets in the future. And therefore he says, dharmakṣetre, kurukṣetre, dharmakṣetre. So in this kurukṣetra, where all of these people have assembled, this kurukṣetra itself is in dharmakṣetra. This is the first meaning of this is, as we said, the kurukṣetra itself could be taken to be dharmakṣetra, or Kurukshetra is in Bharatadesha, that is Dharmakṣetra. The entire Bharatadesha is called Dharmakṣetra because it is Dharma Pradhana Kshetra, where Dharma is given Pradhanyam, where where people are primarily dharmic people. That is the idea here. That when one pursues artha and kamaha also, the artha and kamaha pursuits are subservient to dharma. In fact, a lot of the Western culture, it can be called artha kama pradhana kshetra. Artha kama pradhana kshetra, where they say that, I should have freedom of expression. Freedom of expression. In terms of freedom of expression, you can literally get away with anything. And they call that freedom. Saying that spontaneously this thought arises in my mind and I just verbalize it, or I just act it out, or I do whatever I feel like doing. This is the freedom in their view. But in this dharmak pradhana kshetra, the people, they express, they don't just express whatever arises in the mind, but when they express also there is dharma. They evaluate whatever their mind is saying in terms of the ragas and dveshas, that is evaluated by the standard of one's dharma. And it finds expression only if it is the right thing to do. That is why it is dharma pradhana kshetra. Alternatively, we can also look at dharmakṣetra symbolically as this body itself. Because this body, as we saw, is a product of one's punya and papa, which is dharma. And therefore, this body can be called dharmakṣetra. And it is kurukṣetra because it is karmakṣetra. So in this dharmakṣetra, that is his body, one is doing karmas. Therefore, it is dharmakṣetra and kurukṣetra. And here, two forces have assembled. In this body, in this mind itself, there are two forces. One are the children of Dhrtarashtra. So this is the symbolic meaning of this verse. The children of Dhrtarashtra. Dhrtarashtra is the blind king, and his blindness indicates that not just the root avidya. The root avidya is of course there. But in this context, it indicates dharma avivekaha, meaning that the blindness is really the dharma adharma avivekaha, meaning this confusion that we have in our minds with regards to what is dharma and what is adharma. And then this confusion can result in numerous other confusions. This root confusion of dharma, adharma, viveka can result in numerous other confusions that produce wrong actions, and they are the Kauravas. On the other hand, we also have the commonsensical dharma, adharma, viveka. We also understand commonsensically what is dharma, what is adharma. And of course, if one has studied the Vedas, one also knows what the Veda is saying about it. So the dharma, adharma, vivekaha is also there. And that is Pandu. And his sons are the Pandavas, which is all the right actions and right thinking and right actions that arises out of dharma, adharma, viveka. So now these two tendencies within us, they have a battle. So symbolically, we can say that the Mahabharata battle is going on within each of us also. So dharmakṣetre, kurukṣetre. So in the dharmakṣetra, that is kurukṣetra, there is māmakāḥ, my people, and the Pandavas who have assembled with the desire to fight. What did they do is the question. We'll go to the second verse, where Sanjaya provides the reply. Sanjaya uvāca.
Sanjaya uvāca.
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा आचार्यमुपसङ्गम्य
राजा वचनमब्रवीत्
राजा वचनमब्रवीत्
Sanjaya uvāca. Sanjaya is replying to Dhritarashtra's question. And at this point, Sanjaya is now starting to relate what happened in the first 10 days of the battle. So Sanjaya uvāca. Sanjaya said. And what did he say? He says abravit. Abravit meaning he said. We see the last word of the last quarter. Vachanam abravit. Abravit means he said. So who is he referring to when he says he said? Who is Sanjaya referring to? We find the answer in the words Duryodhanaha tada. Vyudhan Duryodhanaha tada. So Duryodhanaha abravit. Duryodhana said. And what kind of Duryodhana is he? So he says, Drishtva tu Pandavanikam Vyudham Duryodhanaha tada Acharyam upasangamya Raja Vachanam abravit. Raja Duryodhanaha abravit. Duryodhanaha, who is the king, said, he says. So Sanjaya is also calling Duryodhana the king, even though Dhrtarashtra is really the king. Because Sanjaya knows that Duryodhana is the one who is really wielding all the power. So Raja Duryodhana abravit. And what did Raja Duryodhana say? Vachanam abravit. He said these words. He said these words. So Sanjaya is now going to say what Duryodhana said. And King Duryodhana, Raja Duryodhana, Vachanam abravit. And having done what did he say these words? Acharyam upasangamya. As we see in the second line, third quarter. Acharyam upasangamya Raja Vachanam abravit. So Acharyam upasangamya meaning having approached the Acharya. Having approached the Acharya. So which Acharya is being referred to here is Dronacharya. So Duryodhana approaches Drona. Having approached Dronacharya, said these words. When did he say? He says, Tada Duryodhanaha Tada. In the third quarter we see Duryodhanaha Tada. So Tada Acharyam upasangamya Raja Duryodhanaha Vachanam abravit. And having done what does he say these words? As we see in the first quarter, Drishtva tu Pandavanikam. So having seen, Drishtva tu, having seen what? Pandavanikam, meaning having seen the Pandava army. Having seen the Pandava army, Duryodhana said these words. Having approached the Acharya, having seen the Pandava army, Duryodhana said these words. And what kind of army is it? Drishtva tu Pandavanikam Vyudham. Vyudham means this army was in a certain formation, arranged in a certain formation. So we see all these, we have heard of Chakra Vyuha. So Vyuha means a formation. So Vyuha refers to a formation. Vyudham refers to in a certain formation. So Pandavanikam, Vyudham Pandavanikam Drishtva Acharyam upasangamya Raja Duryodhanaha Vachanam abravit. So this is the meaning of the second verse, that he said these words to Drona. Now what words did he say? That is given in the third verse. We will read that. Pashyaitam Panduputranam
Pashyaitam Panduputranam
Acharya Mahatim Chamum
Acharya Mahatim Chamum
Vyudhan Drupadaputrena
Vyudham Drupadaputrena
Avashishyena Dhimata.
Tava Shishyena Dhimata.
He says, Pashyaitam Panduputranam Acharya. So he is addressing Dronacharya as Acharya. He says, Acharya, hey Acharya, he is addressing. So why is he going to Drona? So he could have gone to Bhishma. But perhaps he is more confident about Bhishma's loyalty. So he knows that Bhishma has taken his vow, which he will never break, that he will always support whoever is ruling Hastinapur. So he is sure about Bhishma's loyalty, and therefore, since he has some doubt about Drona's loyalty, because his favorite disciples are on the other side, he goes to Drona and he says, "Hey Acharya," and then he says, "Pashya etam Panduputrana." So he's saying, "Pashya, you see," he says. He says, "You see." Pashya, tvam pashya, meaning you see. And what should he see? Etam mahatim chamum, pashyetam panduputranam acharya mahatim chamum. So he says, Etam mahatim chamum pashya. Mahatim chamum means large army. See this large army, he says. And whose army is it? Panduputranam. Pashyetam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum. Panduputranam Etam Mahatim Chamum Pashya. See this vast army of the Pandavas, he says. And what kind of army is it? Vyudham. You see in the second line, Vyudham. Vyudham means set up in a special formation. In a special formation. And who has set this up in a special formation? He says, Vyudham Drupada Putrena. By the son of Drupada, this army has been organized in this special formation. So who is Drupada? And who is Drupada Putra is the question. So Drupada was one of the friends of Dronacharya. Drupada Putra is Dhrishtadyumna, who is the commander-in-chief of the Pandava army. So Drupada was a friend of Drona when he was a child. Both of them went to the same Gurukula. And they were so close, they were such good friends at that time that Drupada was actually a prince of the Panchala kingdom. And Draupadi is called Panchali because she is the daughter of Drupada. So, from the Panchala kingdom, Drupada was the king. And Drupada at that time was a prince. So he promised Drona that when I become the king, I'll give you half my kingdom. That was the promise. So Dronacharya also remembered this, and after that they were very close in the Gurukula, and then they parted ways once they graduated. Now later on, Dronacharya, he was going through a lot of poverty. So there is a story that his son Ashwathama, one day he was hungry, and they did not even have the ability to buy milk. So his wife took some water and mixed some rice powder in it and gave it to Ashwathama, saying, "Drink this milk." When Drona saw this, he was very sad. So he thought, I'll go and approach Drupada, who is his childhood friend, and who has now become the king. So he goes to Drupada and he reminds him that we were such close friends, and you had even promised me half your kingdom. So at that time, Drupada says that there cannot be any friendship. You are just a poor Brahmana and I am a king. How can there be friendship between us? That is impossible. And he insults him at that point and sends him away. So Drona nurses this hurt from that point. And therefore, once Dronacharya becomes the Acharya of the Pandavas, and finally he has taught them everything, he demands his Guru Dakshina, saying that you have to go and defeat Drupada and win his kingdom. So Pandavas defeat Drupada and win the kingdom and give it to Dronacharya. And then Dronacharya gives back half the kingdom, saying that now we are equals. Now we are equals. And at that time he feels that he has avenged the insult. But now Drupada feels insulted. And therefore he does this homa, where one of the motives for the homa is to produce a being who will destroy Dronacharya. So from this Homakunda emerged Draupadi, who is the daughter of Drupada, and Dhrishtadyumna, who is the son of Drupada, whose aim in life is to destroy Drona. And therefore now he has become the commander-in-chief of the Pandava army, and he is the son of Drupada. And therefore, Drupada putrena vyudham. And Duryodhana is also rubbing it in, saying, Tava Śiṣyena, Tava Śiṣyena. So he's being sarcastic, saying that this Drupada is your Drupada Putra, Dhrishtadyumna is actually your Śiṣya. So Dronacharya, Drupada, interestingly, Dhrishtadyumna, whose aim in life is to destroy Drona, he approaches Drona to learn the art of warfare. And Drona also teaches him that. And therefore, the Dhrishtadyumna learned everything, all the tricks of the trade he has learned from Drona. And now he is employing it against the Kauravas. And Duryodhana is not happy about it. So he's rubbing it in, like this happens, like Swamiji says, even in our families. Sometimes there's a child who does something wrong. Then the wife tells the husband, look what your son has done. So similarly, he's saying, Drupada putrena tava Śiṣyena, by your son, this Pandava army has been set up in this formation to attack us. So he has learned everything from you and now he is using it against us. And what kind of Śiṣya is he? He says, Dhimata. Dhimata means he's a very smart guy. He's Dhimat Shabda. So he's saying he's a very, very smart and cunning person. Look what a formation he has set up his army in. So this is what he's saying, that, O Drona, look at the vast army of the Pandavas. Panduputranam Mahatim Chamum Pashya, which has been set up. Tava Śiṣyena Dhimata Drupada Putrena Vyudham, that this has been set up by Drupada's son, who is your Śiṣya. So this is the meaning of the third verse. We will also read the verses 4, 5, and 6, because those three verses are taken in a combination. Atra Shura Maheshvasaha
Atra Shura Maheshvasaha
Bhīmārjuna Samayudhi
Bhīmārjuna Samayudhi
Yuyudhano Viratascha
Yuyudhano Viratascha
Drupadascha Maharathaha
Drupadascha Maharathaha
Drishtaketuschekitanaha
Drishtaketuschekitanaha
Kashirajascha Viryavan
Kashirajascha Viryavan
Purujit Kunti Bhojascha
Purujit Kunti Bhojascha
Shaibyascha Narapungavaha
Taibhyascha Narapungavaha
Yudhamanyuscha Vikrantaha
Yudhamanyuscha Vikrantaha
Uttamaujascha Viryavan
Uttamaujascha Viryavan
Saubhadro Draupadeyascha
Saubhadro Draupadeyascha
Sarva eva Maharathaha.
Sarva eva Maharathaha.
In these verses, Duryodhana is talking about who all are present on the other side. He's giving a big list of the names of warriors, basically. So he says, if we look at verse number 4, so we read 4, 5, and 6. In verse number 4, in the first quarter, Atra Shuraha Maheshvasaha. So Maheshvasaha Santi, he says. Maheshvasaha means these great archers are there. Ishvasaha means a bow. And Maheshvasaha means one who has a great bow. So all of these people had some great bows with them. Maheshwasaha santi. And where are these great people, great archers? Maheshwasaha kutra santi. Atra yudhi. Maheshwasaha santi. In this war, there are these great archers, he says. Atra is in the first quarter of the fourth verse. Atra. And yudhi is in the last word of the second quarter, in the fourth verse. Atra shuraha maheshwasaha bhimarjuna samaha yudhi. So atra yudhi maheshwasaha santi, he says. And what type of great archers are there in this war? He says shuraha, means very, very brave archers. Shuraha maheshwasaha santi. And what kind of brave people are they? What kind of great archers are they? Bhima Arjuna Samaha. He says they are warriors who are like Bhima and Arjuna. Atra Yudhi Bhima Arjuna Samaha Shuraha Maheshwasaha Santi, he says. And who are they? He said, he starts giving a list of the names of people from the second half of the fourth verse. So he says, Yuyutsavaḥ. Yuyutsavaḥ. Yuyutsavaḥ refers to Satyaki. Satyaki is a disciple of Arjuna. Yuyutsavaḥ is his other name. He is also there. And then Virataha cha. Virataha cha refers to the king of this Matsya Desha, or also called Virata Desha. He is called Virataha. So this was the place where the Pandavas spent their time in Ajñātavāsa. And in fact, Uttara, who is the wife of Abhimanyu, is from this Matsya Desha or Virata Desha. So this king of this Virata Desha called Virataha, he is also there. And Drupadascha Maharathaha, we just saw Drupada, who is the friend of Dronacharya, who is a Maharatha, means a great warrior. He is also there. And Dhrishtaketuhu is the son of Shishupala. He is there. And Chekitanaha means a Yadava. He is one of the Yadava commanders, who's the leaders of one of the battalions of the Pandavas. Chekitanaha. And Kashi Rajascha Viryavan, the valiant king of Kashi, he is also there. Purujit refers to a brother of Kunti. Purujit. And Kunti Bhojaha cha. Kunti Bhojascha is really Kunti Bhojaha cha. So Kunti Bhoja are the adopted father of Kunti. Kunti was adopted by Kunti Bhojaha. Even he is here. And Shaibyascha Narapungavaha. So Shaibyaha, who is the foremost amongst men. Shaibyaha is a really exalted warrior who is the father of one of the wives of Yudhishthira. So he is also there. And Yudhamanyuscha Vikrantaha, Yudhamanyuhu and Uttamaujascha Viryavan. So Yudhamanyu and Uttamaujas. That's Uttamaujas Shabdaha. Yudhamanyu and Uttamaujas, they are from the Panchala kingdom, and they are brothers from the Panchala kingdom. So they are also there, and they are all very, very strong. Vikrantaha and Vidyavan, he says, very, very strong warriors. And Saubhadraha refers to Abhimanyu, who is the son of Subhadra. And Draupadeyaha cha, the 5 sons of Draupadi, to each of the 5 Pandavas, they are also there. And what types of warriors are they? At the end he says, Sarva eva Maharathaha. Sarva eva Maharathaha means they are all Maharathas. The Maharatha means an archer who can fight with 10,000 warriors at any time. He says, and there's a shloka that defines a Maharatha. Eko dashasahasrani yodhayet yastu dhanvinam shastra shastra pravinascha Maharatha iti smritaha. Meaning a Maharatha is one, Ekaha. Dasasahasrani yodhayet. Yastu dhanminam. Dhanminam means amongst the archers. Amongst the archers, ekaha dasasahasrani yodhayet. One who can fight 10,000 warriors at a given time. And one who is Shastra Shastra Pravinascha, one who is adept at using weapons and in the art of warfare. Such a person is called a Maharatha. And Duryodhana has listed out various Maharathas who are on the opposite side. We will continue in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.